content of this video is strictly for adults. In this video, I'm going to be talking about erectile dysfunction. That is when the man cannot stand at attention till the match past is over. In fact, some men hardly or don't even attend match past any longer. That's right. Erectile dysfunction is when a man is no longer able to sustain himself standing erect during sexual intercourse. Some men can't get it up, and some cannot have it standing till the end, and some can't even ejaculate. And this has a great impact on families. It can even tear a marriage apart because it's not handled well, especially in our African society, where the man will hardly want to admit that he has a problem, because admitting to that problem is like taking a part of his manhood away. Hello and welcome to AfriTrader. If you are new on my channel, please do hit the subscribe and notification buttons because I post regular videos. And for those of you who have been coming on, thank you so much, and I hope I've made it worth your while. The normal is that when a man sees something or is touched, he gets aroused, and the brain sends signals to the nerves around his penis, which gets the muscles to relax, and the blood is pumped in, and he has an erection. And the normal is that the man should be able to sustain this erection for an amount of time. But when it doesn't happen, in most cases, 90%, it is because of a medical condition the man has. Now, most people seem to believe that ED is due to age, but it's not really directly due to age, but due to medical conditions that are more likely to occur as you get older. Any man that has issues with ED should consult his doctor. Please be open about it, confide in your doctor, because there are often, in most cases, there's a physical condition causing this. A lot of men that have had heart attacks have gone on to say that about 2-3 years before the heart attack occurred, they started having problems with ED. It's all about the arteries, veins being blocked. Men that are diabetic have a higher chance of having ED. Also, sometimes medication you take for high blood pressure or even depression can cause ED. There are a lot of conditions that could cause ED. So, as a man, when you start having ED, you need to go to a doctor. If it happens once or twice, it's okay. It may be due to stress, fatigue, or any other reason. But if it happens more often than not, more than half of the time, and depending on your age, seek professional help so that you can at least exclude that you don't have a medical condition. Many men that have ED, they have a lot of issues with it. They feel their manhood has been cut from them. They don't feel quite adequate. They feel inferior. They get angry. They get frustrated. Those are all normal reactions. And in fact, sometimes you can see that a man may just have this experience once, but the fear that comes up within him will even start affecting his usual performance, because he's now always under pressure and in panic. Is it going to happen to me again? Am I going to embarrass myself? So that's why it's very important as a man to seek medical help. Most African men, when they start having this problem, they don't confide in their wives. And because of the kind of sexual life they've been living, it starts becoming a problem for them. Because most young men see this act of sex as a kind of ravaging, a kind of mechanical process in, out, and especially if there hasn't been much romance and foreplay in your relationship with your wife, you suddenly find out that if you have ED, you suddenly have nothing to offer again. The romance, the affection was never there, the foreplay was never there, and the only thing you had that was sustaining this physical contact is suddenly gone. And what they now do is to start blaming their wives. They start trying to make up this show like, you are no longer attractive, or you don't do things for me, or I'm not in love with you. And then they start going after younger women. Why? Because if you have ED, you don't get aroused as easily as you would have. So you need a lot more stimulation, you need a lot more things to arouse you. So for these men, seeing different girls, young girls and their bodies, it's kind of like an extra aroused source, and they function. And now, of course, you know that these young girls, these men are going out to meet. These girls are not interested in satisfaction because you're an older man. They're doing this for what they get out of you, for the financial. So the less you can perform, the better it is for them. So of course they'll pretend to be satisfied, because the truth is they didn't want you for satisfaction. They have their young men satisfying them. You are just a source of income. But because you are dropping the cash, they are pretending to be satisfied and going the extra mile to please you. But the reality is that you have a wife at home and you have to sustain a marriage. And sustaining a marriage also includes the sexual aspect of the marriage. Because of the way our society is built up, most people seem to have this belief that it's the woman that is getting old. The man is no longer going to the woman because she's growing old. She's too old for sex. But the reality is that women reach the peak of their sex life in their late 40s. At age 40, about 40% of men have ED. At age 50, it's 50%. At 60, 60%. And so it goes up. While women reach the peak of their sexual life at age 40, yes, they go into menopause. Yes, they experience dryness. But they have more longing for sex. They're very conscious of their body. And they know what they want. They no longer have inhibitions about sex. They are more free with it. And they feel this touch all over their body. Unlike a young girl, maybe you can just arouse, by her breast or kissing or so. Older women get aroused in a different way. It could just even be the stroke of her arm. Her body is more sensitive to feeling touch. Sex is now not just a raw act, but filled with a lot of desires and emotions. And so she has a higher demand for sex. When a woman does not show this interest in sex, yes, there are some women that have low libido, or they are so stressed and burnt out. But where at that age a woman doesn't show interest in sex, and then it's not by any kind of psychological problem or so, then the woman does not love you. Or she may love you, but she doesn't have a physical attraction to you. But our society is such that men try to paint out like they are enough for one woman, or even 2, 3. You see old men marrying like young girls, and everybody's like kind of trying to pretend and hide the actual truth that men do have a problem with ED. And we have to talk about this problem in marriages because it's affecting a lot of marriages. How does ED affect marriages? ED does not necessarily have to affect a marriage if the man is open about it. But when a man has ED and he's not open about it, and he doesn't talk to his wife about it, it starts affecting the whole marriage because he starts avoiding the wife. He loses interest, or at least he tries to pretend he's losing interest. And suddenly this woman is there, and she can suddenly no longer perform her feminine role in the marriage, because it is the role of the woman to have sex with the husband and to be satisfied and also satisfy the husband. But now when the woman can no longer perform her role as a woman, this feminine role, it becomes a problem to the woman because she feels inadequate. Suddenly, one of your major duties has been taken away from you, and the man is not being honest enough to tell you that he has a problem. So naturally, the woman starts feeling that she is the problem. Maybe she's old, or she's getting fatter, she doesn't look as good as before, or she doesn't have the elasticity or the kind of lubrication, or the man is just interested in a younger woman. So she starts feeling rejected, and that affects her. And of course, it affects her relationship with the man, because when there is no physical closeness, there is no intimacy. And if the reason for this lack of closeness is not clearly laid out on the table, it starts leading to all kinds of emotions like feeling resentful, or even feeling the man has another partner. And most times it is true that our African men would try to look for the solution to their problem, not by rearranging their sex life with their wife, but by going after young girls in a bid to boost your ego, because you feel that when you hit on a young girl, that shows that you're still virile and strong. While in reality, you can't stand at attention for the match pass, and you don't want to fix your problem in a genuine way by confiding in your wife, telling her the truth, and both of you looking for solutions. As a woman, if you notice your husband has ED, try and initiate this talk with him, because men have a lot of pride and ego, and it's very difficult for a lot of men to come out and say, listen dear, it's not working. Most men with their ego, especially men that have grown up in a society to feel that they are superior, they are men, they are macho, they can't come out and admit it. So as a woman, if you really want to help your husband, approach this discussion with him. Talk about this. You don't need to even ask directly, hey, tell me, do you have ED? You can raise the topic about ED generally, that it's quite common in men, and in most cases it has solutions. There are a lot of things out there that the doctor can recommend, a lot of different methods, not just medication, for a man to improve. So as a woman, introduce this topic to your husband and talk to him about it. Let him be honest about it. It doesn't make him less a man. Especially if you've been married for a long time. You can both look back at wonderful years together. And if you can assure the man that there's so much more to love and sex than just this pumping, it goes a long way to take the pressure off the man. So talk to the man honestly about this topic and encourage him to speak up about his problem. And also, if you can afford it, encourage your husband to go to a good doctor to make sure that there's no other problem he has. Go to a doctor, do the checkups to make sure that your husband is healthy because you want to live a long life with him. And after you have done that, find ways of getting closer, of getting intimate, without putting so much focus on the attention standing, on the actual penetration. There are so many different ways you can discover intimacy, discover your bodies, have foreplay. There's so many different methods people can satisfy each other. It just means you have to start trying new things, be open to new things, and appreciate each other's body, appreciate the age and the stage you have come to. And very often, people don't just get down to good sex because they are tired and frustrated. So when you get older, it's less likely that you'll just be jumping here and there for quickies. Maybe you even have to plan it and cut out a day and say, you know, this evening, you and I were going to take time for ourselves. And then you can prepare over the day for the evening. Have a nice wellness, a bath, relax yourself, cook a nice meal, get the whole atmosphere going. And in the evening, don't put so much focus on that act of penetration. Let it be, sex is from the brain. Let it be feeling, emotion, romance of the minds, of the heart, touching one another and encouraging one another. And then you will get there because the man will realize that the pleasure is still there for you as a woman. Because truth be told, most women don't even get their orgasm from that actual penetration. So if man and woman can honestly discuss these issues, respect and appreciate their bodies, respect and appreciate the new age, and learn this new intimacy, the marriage can be salvaged. You might even find out that this quickie raw sex is now turning into mature love making. You may find out that your marriage is getting more intimate and more passionate because you're having time to focus on different aspects about each other that you never even knew about. You can find out suddenly that even just lying in each other's hands has its own intensity. But when the man decides instead not to address his problem and instead boost his ego by going out to young girls, and the woman too will not speak openly to the man, but instead go out to meet men, that's when the marriage starts to have a breakup. That's when two people start going different ways. They can still be in the marriage, but they are going different ways because they didn't come together to solve their problem. Because the strange thing is that in a family, both the man and the woman, the family, the children, they work as a unit. So when you, as one part of that unit, you don't perform your duty, you don't perform your function, you are forcing the other person to work extra to take up your function. So if such a thing occurs, like in this case, that suddenly the man cannot perform a particular thing, how is the woman going to take up that function? It's not like if the man is earning less money, the woman can go out and start earning money. Now, if the man isn't performing, how is the woman going to compensate this in the marriage? Do you expect her to go out and meet a man, or to go and buy a sex toy and satisfy herself alone when she has a husband? That's something men should really think about. You can't just walk out of this problem or pretend it doesn't exist and be going out there bragging, the woman is too old, I now go outside. No. Go back home. Face the truth and face your problem. And find a way of solving this problem with your wife. And I'm sure that most women will be very understanding if you can compensate this loss with another gain from another angle. So that's it for today. Let's focus on our marriage and focus on making it work by being honest to one another and showing empathy for one another. Because it's a great thing when people grow old together, cherishing one another and supporting one another.